Have you ever wondered whether some lighting is more appropriate for men and some more appropriate for women? Well, in this video, I'm going to shoot on two different backgrounds with a few different kinds of lighting, and you can tell me if you think there's a difference or if there should be a difference between lighting for women or for men. So here I am setting up the lighting for the studio. I work tethered, and lighting wise I just use a softbox, a 2x3 softbox. And then I usually box it off with a bit of polyboard. I can't stand white reflectors. I prefer black all round. And the decision is to shoot on white. So what is the difference between a light and a dark background? I believe that the background contributes 40% of a good photograph. A background, whether it's in a studio or an environmental setting, has enormous power to add to the story. It can add a subtext which is completely subliminal but enormously helps the picture to communicate. The light background represents an outside world that has endless positive possibilities. To me, it's an empty white page that can be used to describe anything, good or bad, and a well-executed image on a white page allows nothing to be hidden. Why on a dark background? In the same way that shadow in lighting reflects darkness, the dark background also helps to describe the environment. A sinister underworld figure, for instance, would be best suited to a dark background if you were to photograph one. In this next bit of the video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a time lapse of the studio, and then I'll try and insert the photograph that was taken at that moment. I can't get it 100% right because it's a bit confusing, but you should be able to get more or less an idea of what it looks like. The light there is just to light the background as evenly as possible, and here I am setting up my session in C1 Pro. So there's the softbox up, I've got the camera ready, I'm sort of setting the box, the polyboard box in a nice position, and there's Steph, my model. He's just arrived. We're making a decision about how he must look based on this couple of images that came from the movie yesterday. So here we are starting with him, and my starting point is usually just high up softbox on the left. I try and get it in such a way that I just get a bit of sparkle in both his eyes. There you go. I'll move the softbox around so it's shooting sort of directly from the front. There it is again on the side. I've moved it straight from the front again and very high up now, so I'm moving it quite high. You can see the shadow under the nose. I think even higher, or maybe he dipped his head down a bit. Gives you hollow, so that's not great. So now I take the softbox off and decide to bounce it against the back wall. I've got a white back wall, so it's essentially like a massive light source. So you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. A bit flat, I don't like it. And then bouncing off the floor is interesting sometimes. Interesting to see what happens. So, just be careful about that, because sometimes you have sunlight falling on the ground and then it gives you bad light. So there's the naked light with a piece of tracing paper on the front. Very nice, hard, masculine light, but possibly a bit hard, and it's difficult to get any sparkle in the eyes. You've got to move the light down to expose both eyes properly. And here I'm putting a polyboard in. I think that just looks ugly. Really just doesn't do anything for me. Just takes the energy away from the shot. There's the light from the front. Directly from the front, and then with just the naked light now, almost like sunlight. I've taken the reflector off the front for a couple of shots, and then I'm back onto the softbox. These two images were the light at the back that illuminates the background didn't go, so I thought they were quite nice. Here it is. Sitting, I find sometimes sitting is easier. It's certainly easier to put the light up high. And here we have the guitar now. So, I found the light was a bit harsh for him using the guitar. You know, the guitar is kind of a bit of a, should have a bit of a poetic subtext, so the light was much softer. I bounced it against the roof on the one side, so you do get a shadow, but it's just a much softer light. And I even at one point put a polyboard on there so we could get it slightly crisper. So yeah, we just tried a couple of options. I was really happy with the way it looks. And then, you know, we just ended up getting the shot exactly what I wanted. Look at that! I just love that shot, and the color is just beautiful. It really looks deep and poetic. Anyway, so then we also had to just try and do it on a dark background, and we tried to just do the same sort of thing, softbox, and then, you know, reflector with trace. And then also just that very, very hard light with the naked bulb. I do like these though, they're quite masculine. I think the background brings a bit of darkness and strength to the picture. And we were quite lucky with that, with his hand in the shot, it looked quite nice. I quite like the backlight in this last shot, I think it really makes it. So this next shot that we worked on was a copy of a picture that I'd seen in Life magazine in the 70s. It was of a black panther with a gun at a broken window, sort of staring out into the street. So I went and got a sheet of glass, and we knocked some holes in it and made it look a bit sinister. We started here with this picture, and it was just kind of, we just couldn't quite get the attitude and the feeling right with it. Just didn't quite come to us, and then we tried to light it, and that was even worse. But and then a happy accident happened, and we ended up getting a beautiful blurred picture, and it's so sinister. The subject is so dark and sinister, and then you have this light background, which kind of gives you an idea of life out there. And then he's stuck inside in a bad situation. So I'm really fond of this picture. I think it worked really well. My intention with this video was to define masculine lighting to be different to lighting that you would use for a woman, and I think to a large extent it does work slightly differently. But I became more and more confused, because as I was doing research and looking through some of my old photographs, I realized that a hell of a lot of the pictures of women were done with masculine lighting, and it didn't really make them more masculine than they would have been. So I thought, just for fun, I'm going to photograph a woman on a black background and try and make it look a bit romantic, but still with a black background and quite harsh masculine lighting. So that's what this next setup is all about. So in this shot I just started by putting on the light with the reflector and the tracing paper, and I really struggled. I couldn't find the picture, and it was only after I processed it in Instagram and gave it some nice contrast that it started growing on me. I think because, you know, I'm so used to shooting things in certain ways that to do something so different was quite jarring or sort of foreign to me. But I think with photography, that's the whole point of it, is you've got to try and do stuff that you ordinarily wouldn't do, or do something in a way that you ordinarily wouldn't do. Anyway, so I very quickly moved over to shooting her completely backlit with a big reflector on the right, filling her in. So it's a bit like shooting into the sun, but with a big reflector. The light in the shot that you see there, that was just a light, so that just a weak light to pop the backlight. Obviously, you know, my dog made an appearance during the shoot, but yeah, it was that was good. We struggled a bit with the shadow in the front to try and get that to resolve properly, but on the whole, I'm fairly happy with the shot. I'm not sure if I would have gone out of my way to shoot something exactly like this, but it was an interesting exercise nonetheless. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful or thought-provoking. So let me know in the comments what you think. Let us know if you'd stick to a lighting recipe when it comes to portraits for men or women.